you have to actually do math and understand the fundamentals of a real estate transaction to be able to calculate a real profitable deal now. What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's episode of the Collecting Keys Real Estate Investing Podcast. We need a new tagline. What are we doing? This is a fucking real estate show. We talk about real estate and we help you get rich. And if you don't want to do that, then go listen to Bigger Pockets.
We're a real estate show that's transitioning and identifies as something else now. I don't know.
Ooh. At least we can just decide, you know.
Can we be like? Can we be like?
That was pretty low key right there. No, I got it.
Decide case by case. So today we are talking about buying small businesses and how that will help you replace a six-figure income. But that what we don't tell you is that you're replacing that by getting another job that's actually significantly harder and significantly more work, but you won't have to work for the man anymore.
Boom. There you go.
Right. You are the man. Now you have an SBA loan for $3 million. It's personally guaranteed.
Yeah,
exactly.
Now you're screwed.
You are the man. Now everybody works for you and they're trying to figure out how to drop your bitch ass instead of you going the other way around. So
exactly.
But that's like the worst fad. I hate it. I hate it so much because it's so ignorant. And I feel
business buying is a fad, or what part of it?
Like the preaching the small business buying to people as a means for financial freedom. Yeah. Because it does not make fundamental sense, right? Because it's always being sold heavily to like these, I don't know, like tech kids who are like 26 and they think because they got a job at fucking Google and they went to MIT that they're somehow able to run a plumbing company, right? Yep. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. No. And they always have like the same sort of like bullshit mentality of I'm just going to go and raise some money or get an SBA loan. I'm going to buy this and plug in an operator. And it's going to just operate. And it's going to replace my $350,000 a year job at Google. And that's so the opposite of how it goes over I would say not immediately, because there's probably scenarios where you get into that and month one is okay, then month two. But over the middle term, or like even like short term, couple of years, that is a massive downward trajectory that's going to happen there, which people don't understand, like the volatile nature of business.
One of my old GoPod members had bought a business, but he didn't have the anticipation that it was going to, like, he wasn't going to operate it. Like, he fully, like, was, like, planning on being an operator. Oh, and he's, like, the one out of 100 people when I hear these stories that actually, like, he's grown it, like, maybe 50% over 3 years. And he's basically like, I don't think I would fucking do this again.
Totally,
dude. It's a lot more work than people think. And the honest truth of it, too, is most of the boomers that are selling their businesses are selling a really shitty business and they're overpriced and they actually don't deserve even 1 times EBITDA because there's no systems. They're the key. They have major key man risk. Like their name is like Skip and they own Skip's Awning, which is a business in Spokane. And like they're the salesperson, they're everything. And the only reason they have accounts is because
their wife's the second, like the bookkeeper that does the close.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Neither of them take a salary. You know, it's just.
Yeah. I mean, and there's so many different iterations of that. And there's so many ways it can go wrong too, you know, and like that's the whole thing is, you know, what I will see a lot now is I will see it compared to like real estate or other financial freedom avenues, right? And the thing that people always lean on with businesses is that it can like grow exponentially if you know what you're doing. A, it's always going to take way longer than you expect it to, and B, it's going to be way harder. But also the other thing with business, the opposite way, is it can also go to zero. Right? Like you can get a $3.5 million SBA loan on some company that goes bankrupt. You still have to pay off that fucking SBA loan.
Yeah. And usually SBA is like the worst kind of debt. If you're a real estate investor, like an SBA loan is like the most disgusting kind of loan you can get. Totally. And they will put a second position on your primary home if you can't come up with a down payment. So they are scrupulous.
They will take everything.
Everything. Yeah, your whole life.
And not only that, but it's not even forgivable in death. So if you have like little kids and you go and you make this dumb decision because you're an idiot, like your kids now have to deal with that forever. Like, what the fuck?
I get, and like when they had the 0 interest rate days, so you'd hear about these HVAC or plumbing companies selling for 15 EBITDA. And so like there's like the reason some of these guys would go into that, but they were the Excel warriors. They knew nothing about, you know, the actual business they were buying.
Yeah.
100%.
So I don't know. That's my current grievance, is that seems to be the phase. And I'm interested to see what happens to a lot of these people over the next 2-3 years. What I imagine is it will be similar to a lot of the people that were part of the multifamily craze in 2021 when interest rates were rock bottom and everyone was buying these large multifamily and commercial assets on this projected growth and interest rates kind of staying the same, but that never happened, right? Yep. They were making projections off of things they did not understand. They did not have the ability to run, and they did not have an alternative exit strategy. I think the exact same thing will happen with a lot of these private business investments that they're doing, and it will be catastrophic for a ton of people.
I think like this is a good point. I think small business in America is under fire, and there's a big threat to it because not only because of that, you have these baby boomers retiring with businesses that just kind of suck, and they'll sell them to people that suck too if they can sell them. But then you also have private equity gutting small business because they're coming in and they're doing roll-ups, right? So they're just buying all of the HVAC companies in the town, rolling it up, and then selling it off to some other private equity firm for a little bit of a multiple on that. Like pretty soon, private equity or hedge funds or whoever is going to own most of the small businesses in America. Anything with, I would say with like enterprise value or the ability to have enterprise value. It's just going to be gone, and that like small mom and pop ownership's gone.
Yeah, that is an interesting conversation, right? Because I would say it is the more advanced version of what we've seen with the real estate market over the last couple of years, you know, but what will happen as that's opportunities there is you'll see people that are building business models off of that. So if you go back to like 2019 to 2022 timeframe, there was tons of people that were building these big wholesaling and flipping models where literally the strategy was you would go to where Open Door or, you know, who was the other iBuyers, like Zillow was buying, right? And then you would buy the house, you would get it pre-sold to Open Door beforehand with their little like create me an offer tool online. And then you're basically just going off the fact that the current owner did not know that was an option. And you would close on it, you would sell it to Open Door like a week later, and then Open Door has freaking fallen off a cliff. They're like a 95% drop in their stocks in 2021, right? Now we're starting to see that same thing kind of happen with these like private equity firms that are buying small companies where you have people, I mean, even like Alex Ramosi would be one of these people, right? But he's doing it at a very high level where you have people that are like, I'm going to go and try to buy these businesses at a little bit of enterprise value or do like a small roll up of like 5 companies and whatever, and then find a slightly bigger schmuck to buy the whole thing. Right. You know, and it essentially is passing it down the line, but eventually someone's going to get stuck holding the bag.
When private equity is notorious for just leveraging businesses to the tits, pretty much.
Of course.
Because your leverage and your numbers look better the more debt that you bring on. Until you can't service said debt, which is usually the problem.
Well, and also too, when it comes to big private equity, right? They're willing to take 99 losses for one huge win because that one huge win will be like a 10,000x return. You know, like it goes back to like the tech boom that we saw over the, you know, early 2000s where everyone was trying to do all these startups and everyone was trying to get into these unicorns and different things. And it's like they were backing all of these shitty startups because all you need is like one Uber where you make like billions and billions of dollars to justify the millions of dollars that you flushed away on whatever else. So true. I don't know. That's like, I'm sure you're seeing that same thing with private equity, right? Like they're all kind of trying to find different industries that they like, you know, different ways that they can scale, different things that are easy to systematize. And I think the ones that are like essential services will probably come out a little bit better, you know, like plumbing companies, some of these different things. But I mean, eventually you're going to reach a situation where something's going to break, whether it's in terms of like the pricing doesn't keep up with the debt anymore, or they can't find staff, or there's just like no longer a customer base, even if it is essential because people just don't have money. Right? Like, I don't know what the end game is, but I think all the rookies are the ones that get roasted in that at the end of it.
Yep.
You know?
Totally. And this is the flavor of the year, I guess, or every couple of years, right? It'll be something else in a couple of months or a couple of years from now. And who knows what that'll be. But we've been in this game long enough to realize these things just come and go in cycles.
Yeah. I mean, and there's always the next thing. But anyways, but I think that's like the most important thing you can do with that is, you know, if you are running your own business, is keep lean, right? And don't like get stupid with some of the decisions that you make, or, you know, be realistic around, I would say, the investments that you're making versus how much you're actually going to be able to like take out of it over like the short and middle term. You know, I think a lot of people who were around in 2021 and 22, they're still kind of leading with this optimism that things are going to continue to go up, and they're looking for that to save them from their questionable decisions. When realistically, I think even when you're looking at rental properties or flips or wholesale deals or whatever it is in the real estate world, you need to be kind of looking from a worst case scenario right now, more so than ever before.
I'd probably be guilty of what you just said a little bit. Like I've been a little bit more aggressive lately. And I'm like, I'll figure it out kind of a thing. Which I guess I'm in a different position than I was a couple of years ago where that would sting. But like,
ooh, you got dumb money now? Is that what you're saying?
No.
me and Dan went through the dumb money phase too. That's when we started a franchise, did all this bullshit.
Then now we have no money.
Now we have no money.
Well, I know we talk about on the podcast a lot about like, especially now, there's negative economic data everywhere. Yeah. We're a little bit slower, affordability's problem, all this stuff. And a lot of this, though, is through the lens of, let's say REITs are supposed to do like 3 to 4% over the next couple of years, like big institutional billion-dollar funds. None of this ever takes into account the operator that we are referring to in our off-market businesses.
Yeah,
I'm still selling a $275,000 house hack duplex. That's an FHA buyer that would have happened if we were in a recession or not. Like, yeah. So those like. I guess to say that, like, if you're listening to this and like, these guys are always so negative or the world's going to fall, like, we don't ever take into account the person that's doing the deals on the ground.
Well, I think also, too, the difference of that situation, Dylan, is, I think is it Warren Buffett that says price is what you pay, value is what you get. The advantage that we get in our very specific niche of real estate, right? Wholesale real estate, specifically in residential. It is very easy to create value at the moment that you buy because it's just based off of data and numbers that you can see that are proven. Yep. Where people tend to get into trouble, and this is what we saw a lot in 21 with real estate. This is what we're seeing with the small business thing, so being that back in, is people are expecting value to be created later. Right.
Yeah, right.
The safest investments are ones where the value is created right now because you're looking off empirical data of something that already exists, that has already come to fruition, and not like I'm going to forecast this growth, which is why everyone that was doing multifamilies in 21 is getting cooked right now.
Totally. Yeah. They're like, interest rates will stay flat or go lower. We'll be fine.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think the two ways, like as you're talking, I'm thinking like the two ways that people get it wrong, like at our level, is they underestimate rehab costs or they overestimate the ARV. I mean, you really can't do anything else wrong on the buy side. Like those are going to influence the offer price you make along with how much money you want to profit. But over speculation, like if you think, which I don't see this anymore, but if you think the value is going to go up from when you purchase it beyond what your value add can do, like you're screwed already right out the gate. But I don't see that very much anymore. I just see people wanting to do a deal so bad that they will believe that the number is going to happen, or they won't even price in maybe a 2 or 3% price reduction over the course of ownership.
You know what never happens anymore, Dan? Is that you're mid-rehab in one of your flips, and then let's say you're like 2 weeks out, and then another house in your neighborhood goes live on the MLS for $30K above what you thought your ARV was going to be.
Yeah, that
you're
never
like, man,
happens.
I hope that sells.
Yeah,
doesn't happen anymore.
No, now they're coming in less. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, why did they list it for that? God damn
it. Yeah, wow, they way over rehabbed it. Shit, that's my competition now. Oh no.
Yeah. We see that. I mean, but being able to create that value in day one is everything. I think in every type of investment, right, or every opportunity that you find, that is probably the one thing that you should always try to strive to do. Is to give you options. I think the perfect example, Dylan, like you had in your notes here, talking about this buyer that backed out, but now you have an option to monetize it a different way.
Yeah.
So, what is that full situation?
So it was a direct mail lead. I actually had wholesaled one of his other houses a long time ago. Okay. He came back around, and I walked through it. Basically, we got to a purchase price of $80,000. This is one of the situations where I knew it was going to be difficult to get access again. So I brought a couple of people with me, including the appraiser that everyone in town uses.
Nice.
And so we walk it. One of the buyers that was there was like, hey, I really want this. Like, don't sell it to anybody else. I'll give you it for this price. I'll say, fine, that price works, whatever. Sign the assignment. And I have a follow-up question to you guys, but how much EMD you guys charge your end buyers? But hold that thought. Supposed to close in 2 days. And then I got the HUDs and everything. And he like basically texted my AM or was like, hey, I can't do this deal. I'm like, okay, well, I have this appraisal now that I paid for. And it was assigned for this guy for 105. This appraisal came back at 135 as is.
Nice.
So I'm just going to buy it And then I'll have to unfortunately kick the tenant out, but then I'm just going to list it after that and hopefully make 20 more grand than I was originally going to.
There you go.
But that happens because you created value from the second you signed the contract, right? You identified that value, you knew it was already there. And so you can go from, I mean, unfortunately with wholesale real estate, because we don't bring the money at that point, you have EMD on it, that's it. Your downside risk is very, very low. You know, starting out, but you're able to go from basically making nothing to now making 40 grand because you identified that value from day one. Regarding your EMD question for buyers, was this a new buyer for you?
It was.
Yeah,
I only put I made him do 1,000. I should have been 5.
Yeah, 5,000.
Geez, make it hurt.
We'll do 2,500 for repeat buyers.
Yeah, we did 15,000 recently on one for
15 grand.
15 grand, yeah, on a deal that is over in like Western Washington.
Yeah, because it was a little bit of a dicey one, and it was a
completely new buyer
for us, and there was like a lot of interest. And it was going to be hard to have access again, and so we made sure that if they wanted it, they were locked in tight. And
that's smart. That's what I should have done too. I don't know. I just oversight or the way he was talking. I trusted that he was going to do it, and here we are. Yeah, it's going to work out. It's just going to like you play with your cash in this business now. It's not going to be if I was projecting to have $20,000 in 2 days, now I could be like, okay, I'm not going to have that. But I'm in 45 days from now, hopefully, or 60 days from now, I'll have 40. You know what it is. So
exactly. But again, you're able to make the decision with that data that you already have. You have the appraisal, right? You can like directly see it. That's a pretty secure risk, I would say, right?
Yeah, and this is like one of the better deals that that's way above my average. Price per deal. So
but back in the day, people would have been buying that same house for $125,000 because they knew that by the time they listed, it was going to be worth $150,000.
Yeah, I've never once have I been like, I expect 2 or 3% appreciation during my holding period. Never once have I had that thought.
Yeah. Dude, I remember back in the day, like, especially Seattle was like insane. And people like wholesalers there would be sending out deals and they would have the appreciation ARV. When you're done with the flip in 6 months, this is what it's going to be worth. No, dude, I'm serious. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we would
see
that
love
shit
the
everywhere.
appreciation ARV. What a stupid thing.
Yeah. And people would buy it, dude.
Or like, I'm going to start doing that, but it's going to be less than the ARV that I have listed.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. Honestly,
that's realistic. So I was working at a hard money company at that point, just like selling loans, and we would have people that were like defaulting on their loans, like it'd be coming due, and they wouldn't sell it, and they'd be like, "No, the property's going up so much in value every month. I'm just going to pay the penalty interest."
Shut up! That is hilarious. Wow.
Yeah.
And there for a bit, it was that way.
Yeah, for like a year.
Yeah, there for a bit. I mean, you couldn't lose. Related
question to that is, I should have had this in my business beforehand, but I'm going through basically making a new quote unquote buyers list. I'm not having my assistant do it, but of everybody we've ever sold deals to, but also like, let's say everything I made an offer on, but I got outbid and eventually sold for 20, 30K more. And I'm, we're basically skip tracing who those buyers are and putting it in a new, like basically like a VIP buyers list sheet. Yeah. Do you guys have something like that? Do you still mass market all your deals for brand recognition, get new buyers, that kind of stuff? Because the trade-off, in my opinion, is you work with, and there's 65 people on this list so far. You work with people who can close, or you take the time to act. Like, so Dan, I guess you're the dispo guy, to actually take the time to do the dispo, show the houses, find new buyers, vet them. How much time does that take you versus just finding more deals?
Gosh dang, that sounds like you're doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
I would also add to your workload is all your competitions buyers.
Yeah, and so that's more so what we do is not like our previous buyers, but we pull all of our competitions deals and we see.
So basically, if it got marketed, you see it, you just keep the tabs on until it sells.
Yeah, and then we'll go and we have a whole list of every deal that gets sent out in our market. And we go and we see who ends up buying it. We see what their prices are for. And then we look at those people. The challenge that we have is just like the nature of our market. It's the same people, between who we're already selling stuff to and who's buying all of our competitions deals. There will be like the random, like one-off new name in there. But besides that, it's fundamentally all the same people.
Yeah. We track it all.
Yeah. You get the onesie twosies here that can, they could probably pay $15K more because they're doing all their own work or something like that.
And we do get those onesies and twosies. I would say 9 out of 10 times when you're working with them, they don't buy anything, but you do get that random onesie twosie person that does buy 1 or 2 deals. Like the deal we just talked about with the $15,000 EMD, granted, this is a new market, but that guy's only ever bought 2 deals ever. He's a W-2 guy that just looks for buy and holds and he's only, actually this was his 2nd deal. So it's like, he's barely ever going to buy. We probably won't see him buying again for a year until that thing's stabilized and he's got enough capital to saved up to buy another one. And so like we get those, but all the ones we see and we track our spreadsheet, we've got the same probably 4 or 5.
I mean, I have I sell shit. I probably like over 1,000 names on it, but like mass marketing to that is a lot more time intensive than picking one that just like, I know these people have at least bought real estate.
I mean, if you have a VIP list already at 65, you're already killing it. Because we have like in Spokane where we send out our list is a little over 600 people. And again, most of those people don't respond, like there's nothing out there that's like going into the ether. And then you'll get onesies and twosies off that list that do respond and pop up because it's time for them to buy, or hey, I want to do my first project or whatever it is. And they'll come out and you'll, like I said, 9 out of 10 times waste your time with them. But you kind of have to do that though. And you have to kind of get good at that. So you know when you're going to waste your time, because there is that one time, that 10%, maybe 15% where the person actually does buy it, or they don't buy that deal, but they are motivated to buy the next deal. And the salesmanship there is like, hey man, I can't get you this one, or hey, I don't like that deal. Well, now what's your buy box? And you build that relationship with them, and then you almost like guilt them into buying the next deal because like you're giving them time, right, of you to like show them and give them opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have.
Yeah. Well, one of the challenges we have in a smaller market, so I've spoken at a handful of meetups this year, and I always spend time kind of chatting to people afterwards, usually newer investors. And there's 2 common things that I see are really, I would say, prevalent, right? One is that like our other competitors here, they send out deals that are so bad, right? Like that are so high that everyone basically assumes that every deal that comes from a wholesaler is bad because
that's not just in Spokane. I'll tell you
that's
that.
And that's the one that they see the most, right? And so I've talked to people and they said, "Oh, I don't even like analyze deals from wholesalers anymore because everyone that I was looking at from this other company was always a terrible deal." Right. And the funny thing is we'll look and their deals almost always sell for less than they send them out for. So they're sending out like a wish price. And then what happens is one of our crafty buyers will go and say like, I'll pay you $15,000 less than that. And they accept it. But what it does is it kind of like taints the buyer pool where they no longer respect anyone that's in the industry. That thing is really common. The other thing that I see, which is really common, is people will use like these free tools or like the bigger box calculator shit online that are so unbelievably conservative that they are making offers at prices that we will never be able to get, right? Or that have such like a huge margin that if we were to ever get that price, we would just buy it ourselves. So they have an unrealistic expectation around the margins that you can create on these deals. Especially like in our price point, we're in like a funny price point because like high exit prices, like low 400s. And so there will be people that are like realistically trying to make like $80,000 to $100,000 on a flip, because they're going at 75%, so $400,000 to $300,000 minus $50,000 in repairs. They're trying to build like this huge spread in there. I'm like, bro, like you can't do that.
Doesn't happen.
Like that model works a lot better if you're in like the $200,000 price point. If you go and like when the bigger pockets calculator was created in 2016, right? You look at price points then. It makes so much more sense now, but you have to actually do math and understand the fundamentals of a real estate transaction to be able to calculate a real profitable deal.
Yeah, and that 75% rule, I tell a lot of new investors, don't underwrite yourself out of a deal like the opposite way. Like I understand you want to be conservative, especially if it's your first one, but you're never going to buy something if you're trying to do what Mike just explained.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to like just bake in your margin, figure out how much money you want to make or you should realistically be able to make, right? Have kind of like your oh shit gray area in case things go outside of what you're expecting. And then actually like hard calculate your offers. Otherwise, you're never going to buy anything.
Literally, I take ARV, which is usually a little conservative, 92% of that, subtract out my hard money costs, and then subtract out my rehab, and then subtract out my profit I want for that size of rehab or deal.
Makes sense. And
that's it. That's all the arithmetic you need.
It's so
do you do
easy.
like do you try to do like a 1-to-1 on an average rehab versus profit? So like 50K rehab equals 50K profit? Or
no,
I would take those deals all day. I mean, 50K but
rehab would be like I would be okay like 25 to 30. 25 is like my minimum. And that's for a pretty easy one.
Yeah.
So I would 30 or 35 or above.
Yeah. And if people don't know what their hard money costs, if you're new and you're listening to this, just do 8% of your purchase price. That is 12% interest for 6 months plus 2 points.
Easy. Wow, that's really good. That's not how I've done it,
simple.
But that's easier.
Yeah. That will be high for your hard money costs, right? For the average person, but it will give you tons of room to make mistakes if you need to.
I always think about it as 1% is a month, right? Because if it's 12% for $200,000 loan, you're paying $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
I would take ARV 75%, take that 1 point and then times it by 7. Because then you have 6 months of interest plus 1 point if that's what the deal is. So
now we're all throwing calculus out there.
Let's go. Math.
It's funny, dude. I've been like on this note, we have these 3 interns in our office right now. And let me tell you, math is not their strong point, man. I don't know if it's a generational thing or it's the 3 kids, but like they're very smart.
To put it
kids.
into Chat GPT,
dude. They might. I don't know if they do that, but like they're very smart, like with like certain things. But I'm coming to realize I don't know if it's a generational thing or it's me. I am very strong with math in general. So I don't know if I went and talked to like a random person on the street if they would have the same challenges. But some of the stuff we've been going through as I've been doing like these little lunch and learns with them on Friday, I'm like, God damn, like, come on, guys. What is 6% of 100,000? They're like, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah. Let me pull out my calculator.
A lot?
I know. It's funny, dude. I don't know what that is or if that's just like a common thing now. Yeah, I mean, everyone can cheat that easily in school. So you literally didn't learn anything. Like I learned a little bit by cheating a lot. They cheated 100% and learned nothing.
I don't know, man. I guess coming from you guys are both engineers, I was a pharmacist, like I guess some level of higher education. And when you get into real estate, I was almost frozen because I was like, I don't have all the answers. This was not Mike. I know this wasn't Mike. But like, I was like, I need to know this and like get down. A lot of people I feel like who get into this come from more my aspect. But they never do a deal because they're like, it was 11.8% cash on cash. I needed a 12, right? Like just buy the goddamn deal. Like it's going to figure it out. So,
yeah. Well, I feel like that's really common. So like a lot of the engineers and like that kind of mindset that come and join Scale, they tend to lead that way versus then we have like the hard sales folks who like that. I don't even know what the contract, like what is the house worth? All I know is I talked to the seller, he'll give it to me for 120. And then I talked to this guy that I met at the brewery randomly on Saturday. He'll give me 140. Right?
Yeah, I don't even know what that's crazy to me, but like I know that exists.
Right
yeah.
But that's Cody who works with us, right? Like that is literally him. And then we've had members in the group that are the same way though, that have come through and are like that. But the thing is those people, they always really struggle building a long-term sustainable business because they don't follow a process. Everything with like the wheeler and dealer type is around making like a quick buck and they're really good at that. Their growth trajectory early is always very high, but they plateau super early. The people that can actually like learn to run numbers and be calculated in their risks, those ones build a much more sustainable long-term business and make a lot more money.
More consistent.
Like 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yep. Yeah, you can hustle you can hustle your way to 100 grand.
The bar to competence is a lot less than I think someone who doesn't do real estate probably thinks, or someone who's like new to real estate.
Yeah, that's why most real estate agents are kind of on the spectrum.
there's your tagline.
and not the autism one. They're just kind of stupid.
Oh, that's what I thought you meant.
Yeah, no. But like I would give autism like a lot more credit. Yeah, I mean, you deal with a lot of real estate people, especially on the real estate agent side of things. You realize like, oh my gosh, this person is not that smart.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They don't have any creativity ability on the contract side of things. They don't even sometimes know how to use the contracts. Yeah. You know, there's the 1% and everything that are awesome, but a lot of times you don't have to be that awesome. It's a low barrier to entry. Anything with a low barrier to entry.
Yeah, but you see way less investors that are like that, right? Investors have to be
investors are a lot more savvy. Yeah, totally.
You know, like the ones that are actually successful. You have the big names out there, the people that realize that they suck in investing and try to go into something else. But
well, there's also like, I mean, if you just go and do a walkthrough, you'll also notice that there's a lot of people that fancy themselves as investors or house flip person. You're like, you are not good at anything. You know.
I have a lot less patience like for stuff like this. And the example is like, I had someone that was hounding me for deals and I brought him to like a walkthrough. And I was just like, after he's like, I was asking, I think 95. He's like, I'll give you 70 grand. I'm like, don't even waste my time anymore.
Yeah.
Like I have two offers at 90.
Yeah.
Like, why? How did you get to 70?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is going to cost this. I was like, no, it's not. Like, I know it's not. Like, you need better pricing then. Like, I don't know.
We have one of those guys in our market. He actually walked one like recently with one of our guys like last week, and that was literally the situation. Like, I'm so into it. I really want a deal. You got to bring me more. I was like, I have money ready to close in like 2 days, and then he goes and walks it, and he's like, nah, don't want it.
Nah, it's not my kind of house. I don't like the street.
He's just like, I'm like, what the fuck, dude? You hit us up every day, looking for stuff.
It's annoying,
but I guess eventually they'll get one. So
yeah, I guess that's true. You guys want to dive into this data stuff at all? You want to move on to something else?
Give me the too long didn't read, because you sent over like 2 paragraphs, and I'll be honest, it's too long. I didn't read it.
Market bad.
I hardly read it too. No, I guess the crux of this is existing home sales in the U.S. declined 0.5% month over month. So from March to April. Yes. It's the lowest in 7 months. And I think the biggest thing in here I want to say was total housing inventory was 1.45 million units, up 9% from March. And you would think that, so we have inventory rising in a period where you'd think inventory would be decreasing because of the seasonality of real estate, selling more in like the summer, spring kind of a time.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that would be something I agree with. I think the thing that stood out to me here mostly is that you said, even with the 7 million jobs added to the economy, pent-up housing demand continues to grow, though not realized. See, and this is one of the things I think is really interesting to me is, I would say that this is the perfect demonstration of the haves versus the have-nots right now that exists so heavily in the United States. Is we have generally a low unemployment, and there's this huge demand for employees, right? But like, we don't really have people to fill that. And so that's really shows like how well a lot of like businesses or like moderately successful people are doing compared to everyone else right now, is because we talk about this affordability crisis. We have massive consumer debt. We have all these different things. But then we also have all these businesses that could be taking larger distributions, right? Or could be kind of just chilling, but instead they're trying to aggressively hire more people, and you wouldn't be doing that if the economy for those businesses was struggling. The first thing that you get rid of when the economy is hard in a small business is employees.
Yeah.
Right.
These are the highest percentage of your total expenses.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean over like the middle long term? I have no idea. But when it comes to a housing perspective, like regardless of all the numbers everywhere, the main thing is still that in many places around the country, people cannot afford to buy houses, right? With interest rates the way that they are, they cannot get qualified with their income versus what the cost is going to be to buy that house with a traditional mortgage. And that there are significantly more people right now that are trying to sell houses than to buy.
You know what the problem is? You know what the problem is? They all want to live in cool places like California, Oregon, Washington, New York. The coastal towns. They need to move somewhere where they deserve to live, like where Dylan's at in Cincinnati.
come be like one of the poor
in the middle of the other like 42 states.
If you guys, I don't know if you ever listened to Daniel Tosh's stand up, but he's like, that's the thing about the Midwest. It's for people who give up on their dreams.
Dude, you went to Hollywood, you couldn't make it. Go back to Cincy.
I was born here.
So you never even had a dream to begin with, Dylan.
No, it is what it's funny though, because on the second bullet point, talking about like permits being down nationally, they had this broken down into declined in the Midwest 7.2%, declined in the South 8.6%, but increased in the Northeast 14.3%, and the West 3.4%.
Do you know why?
It's a little bit different than I would anticipate.
Do you know why? Because you know what's in the Northeast and the West?
No.
Nice
people
weather.
that have money.
Yeah.
100%. Dude, you go to the Northeast, like houses are still selling for $1 million up there. You go out West, people still have money out here, And so what are they doing? They're like, well, I can't buy a new house anymore because I got priced out with the interest rates, but I could spend $40,000 and redo my entire fucking kitchen. And it'll be like a new house.
There you go. I can't deny anything you just said.
Yeah. I mean, I don't argue it because I know people want to live in those areas. And so anytime there's people that want to live in areas, I mean, you're talking price or permits like for new builds or just permits in general?
So they had both on there, but the permits that are outlined is for new construction.
New construction. Okay, I was thinking remodels, but
yeah. So I mean, there's there's definitely still growth in lots of areas on the coastal markets. I mean, it is surprising that there'd be that much growth, but yeah, it's because it's cool. It's a cool place to live.
It's a cool place to live, And
it goes back to being regional and local with real estate. I mean, who cares what's going on in Florida if you live in Washington?
Yeah.
I honestly,
I would also say that we are reaching a period of time where a lot of people that have been consumers and travelers, like younger people, millennials, they've kind of gotten a lot of the traveling stuff out of their system, and they are looking to settle down. They're starting to have kids. I saw this really interesting statistic the other day. Actually, if I can find it. But if you look at the number of millennials, like percentage-wise, that are having kids, we are actually about to be equal to the baby boomers.
Really? That does surprise me.
But say that again.
It's a lot later in life, though.
It's a lot later in life. So the percentage of millennials that are having children over the next year to year and a half is going to be equal to the number of baby boomers that had children. Right.
Which is interesting because the millennial generation has, far surpassed the baby boomers in population number.
Totally.
So,
but it's been significantly later in life. And so for a long time, there was this whole thing of millennials aren't having kids like we are. We're just waiting till we're 35.
We're practicing. We want to make sure we're good at it.
Totally. But we also want to do shit. But point being is, as a lot of us get into
financial crisis also really pushed people out 5 to 6
Dan,
years.
you're not allowed to have an opinion, aren't you, Gen X?
Oh. At least I'm not Gen Z, you nerds.
I'm not.
We're definitely safe from Gen Z. We're very firmly millennials.
I don't know. You guys kind of act like it though. You kind of look like it too.
Yeah, that's his classic Gen X right there. He's like,
I'm gonna start making fun of you.
Don't forget about little old me, everyone else did.
You pink hair freaks.
But point being though. So people have kind of gotten that out of their system. And I will say, as you look at a period of uncertainty, people are going to be prioritizing what their at-home life looks like a little bit more. And I think a lot of that's going to be higher quality place to live, higher quality home, more, I would say a more fun environment, right? If they're not going to be looking to do as much stuff over the next 5 years.
Well, they started doing that in COVID, right? That was the big push in COVID was people moving out of the city to the suburbs because they're well, fuck it, I don't have to commute. And then you're saying that as millennials mature, they're man, having a Traeger is pretty cool. I need a back patio.
Totally,
I'm gonna be a meat guy now.
Because what you're talking about in COVID, that was 5 years ago. A lot of people got all their cool shit out of their system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All of my friends are on the same age who bought houses in the past 3 years. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us are having kids now too. So it kind of fits the normal millennial dynamic.
Yeah, starting to see it. So anyways.
What's cool in Gen Z now? Let's get ahead of this now. What do Gen Z kids like to do? Or where do they like to go?
They like to have trauma.
Yeah, it's called trauma bonding.
Okay, so we're gonna look for triple net psych wards.
Yeah.
No. They don't want that. They one of the new things they really like to be autistic. Every quirk that they have is some kind of autism.
Yeah, I think also if you could sell any semi-legal drug that will help your mental health, you can really make a killing in that one too. Ketamine therapy, big time.
But alcohol is bad for you. Remember that.
Don't do hard
alcohol.
Drugs.
Yeah,
hard drugs are fine.
Microdosing, dude. It's not addiction. It's not addiction.
Shrooms, ketamine. We'll find some other stuff.
That's why I've started microdosing fentanyl. Really makes me feel good.
I really, next to my tanning and butthole bleaching salon for the med spa theory, which I do think is a lot of money in there. My next one, it'll be you come into the strip mall and you go and have a psychedelic trip at 2:00 in the afternoon.
No, here's what. Yeah, that's a good idea. Honestly, so that'll help with the mental. But what about the physical? As the Gen Z starts to get older and start having bad hips and back, what you do is you bring them into the fentanyl clinic. You get him into the fentanyl slump, and then you help him stretch. It's really going to elongate that spine.
Yeah, get rid of the scoliosis.
And then in your mall, Dan, we're going to have 20 vending machines of all these microdose drugs. And then we can lease the vending machines to somebody else.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah, that's a business you could sell, Dylan.
Yeah, totally. Let's start a franchise. What do we like? What do we call that? I don't even know.
You got to fill out the culture index first.
Yeah. Goddamn. Well, anyways, when it comes to real estate, start buying up places that you can put Dan's mushroom vending machines. That'll be the outside of your trauma centers. When you get sick of trying to pretend that having a 10-bedroom hacked up house for X meth heads is going to be okay. Instead, you can turn those into trauma centers where people can go and take psychedelics and figure out their
I
problems.
can't wait to replay this in 5 years. And we're like, man, we should have done this.
We should have done it, dude. Seriously. It's gonna, that's all we're going to call the trauma center. It's just going to be a strip mall for all your trauma needs.
Oh, man. Well, cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the show and you guys are continuing to get deals done out there. You guys have a great rest of your week and we'll talk to you guys next time.
See ya.